Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host Switcheroo, the rereading, Return to Westeros HBO Spoiler Edition, uncut, uncensored, and too hot for TV. In this episode, we are covering chapters 42 and 43, Brienne and Cersei. In these chapters, Brienne is alive. For now, maybe. Cersei really thinks that she won. And then, how the turns table. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm RoShawn.
Alrighty.
All
This
right.
section is packed. It's so exciting. There's so much going on. I know I sounded really sarcastic, but I mean it. I had said that I had forgotten what happened to Brienne after the face biting off incident. And I remembered a little, but this chapter is full of things that I had forgotten. What did you think about this?
I thought that I was entirely too fucked up in my own mental well-being to deal with this fever dream of Brienne's. This
That's
is all
quite fair.
awful. It was very disorienting. I got my hope, which was I said something like the last Brienne chapter ends with like her being like, wow, Biter's tongue's super long. It's almost like a sword. And me being
Yeah.
like, I hope it is a fucking sword. So it turns out that Gendry just fucking nails him in the back of the head and nips that in the bud.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even be excited about Gendry saving her because it turns out that saving is like using that term loosely.
that's
because
true.
What has happened is they saved Brienne's life from Biter, but they now have her all trussed up and are about to deliver her to a very unforgiving Lady Stoneheart.
Indeed.
who's guys, friends, ladies, gentle thems, folks, use guys. I had a lot of thoughts and feelings about Lady Stoneheart, and I had rambled a little bit about wondering what happens if Brienne and Lady Stoneheart's paths cross, because I don't know what this character is. I don't know how much of the Catelyn that I got to know remains,
Mm-hmm.
and how much is this new persona, this vengeance demon, basically. She's like Anya from Buffy. She's like a vengeance demon now.
Yeah.
And, and I had some trepidation. I was a little concerned. This meeting might not go great. And turns out that is exactly what's fucking happening here.
Quite.
And Gendry is part of they don't even know what to call themselves anymore, Thoreau says. They have changed from whatever they thought their righteous mission was when Beric was leading them into whatever this is that Lady Stoneheart has them on. And yeah, Gendry is part of this and has hardened in a way that I didn't really expect,
Yeah.
Yeah, this was just like, I was worried that it would go this way. And not only did it go this way, but this way is way worse than I thought.
Indeed. Yeah, that's the main thing, is just how you think that if she doesn't get killed by Biter, if she lives through that, we're good.
Right?
We're all good.
No, turns out no.
Nah.
Not at all. And it ends. I thought the last Brienne chapter ended with like her getting her face eaten off was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And this ends with her, from what I can tell, basically swinging or about to be swinging from a noose.
Correct.
And my boy Patrick is all caught up in the mess.
Yo.
He's swinging too.
Yep.
Unfucking cool. And I was saying, Natasha, before we started recording, that, you know, you guys may recall that I had recently discovered that Winds of Winter isn't even the last book that doesn't exist.
Indeed.
There is an additional book that doesn't exist. And
I love
y'all
phrasing it that way. I thought there was only one book that didn't exist. Oh, man.
I have been feeling a real way. And I think my words were off air that my relationship with George Martin has soured.
Indeed.
Like, I thought it was already a little choppy. You know what I mean? We were already frenemies, maybe. You know, like, I enjoy George Martin slander on the internet, but I also had like a soft spot in my heart for him for the books, right? That soft spot, that shit is like real estate that we can afford. It is shrinking. It is just, there is not a lot of it out there.
Yeah.
I can't believe. And so the other thing that happened is I have a little sticky notes like in my book that aren't like my regular bookmarks for like chapters we're reading, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a little post-it note folded into a pretty, like, a relatively small square that just indicated that sort of the epilogue of this book. And I have one at the beginning with the maps and stuff. So, but it's tiny enough that I don't have it sticking up out of the page, if you understand my meaning.
Yes.
So if the book is closed, I don't see it. But when I flip through the book, I see it. So I also got today, I'm close enough to the end that when I opened the book, that back page opened. And then I got to understand that we have like 2 chapters left.
Indeed we do, man.
Because the epilogue and then the ancillary information is thick enough that I thought we had much more to go.
Listen, I was looking at it on the Kindle, and it automatically opened on the Kindle all of the ancillary, like the titles of those chapters and whatnot, and the ancillary material is enough to look like it's its own book. Like, it's that long. It's crazy. And I know it's like not actually, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's significant.
Indeed.
So I just had a lot of realizations happen in a short period of time that has just really changed the whole dynamic between me and George. So I just wanted you guys to know where I was.
Yep. Fair.
Where I am. Yeah. So Brienne's chapter opens and it is, you know, literally fever dreams. She is sick. She's injured. And she is having these like wild memories that she can't really tell if they're real or not. She's mistaking people in real life with other people. There's a whole thing happening where she keeps seeing Renly, but it's really Gendry.
That part kept getting to me because like it's such a sad thing anyway, with it being somebody that died and you think it's them, but then it also being that Gendry's like against her and she thinks that this is somebody that meant a lot to her and he's actually like out here like it just mean-spirited.
Yeah, it just, this whole bit was really hard. And you know, she's remembering, I think at one point, about like being married or what would it have been like if she got married, or her suitors or something. She has a memory of, or she dreams rather, I don't know if it's a real memory, but she dreams that she's back at Harrenhal fighting the bear again. You know, she's being chased in her dreams by, like, it's Biter, it's the other one, those other guys, what was it, like Shagwell and some of the other guys she ran into. The fucking guy that led her out, the Nimble Dick guy, makes an appearance.
Poor Nimble Dick.
Yeah. And and the whole thing with her and Renly, because the Renly thing keeps coming up. And one of the things she keeps thinking to herself is, he used to always smile when he saw me.
Yeah. He never scowled.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Except that one time, which we know that's the time when he died, right?
Yep.
I just, like, it was a lot, y'all. And I don't know if there's really any information in these moments that are necessarily moving the plot forward that needs to be delved into.
I don't think so. Not really.
But the overall effect of it was so sad, because she's not only is she flailing in these dreams and these memories, she's failing. You know, she has not done the things that she's sworn to do. She has failed at all of these, like, not all, well, yeah, kind of all of her missions. She has not been wildly successful, guys.
I want to, like, be defensive of her. It's not, like, it's no fault of her own, but yeah.
Like, the only thing she really did successfully was get Jaime to King's Landing, and Jaime had to help a lot.
He did indeed.
You know, like,
he literally had to save her.
He had to come and get her for her to deliver him safely to King's Landing. And I love her too. I don't like to think of them as failures. That's why this whole sequence is so upsetting, because I generally don't think of her as having failed at anything, because she's just out here trying to do the best she can with what she has.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to lose sight of how deeply stacked the odds are against her in her particular quest. When you look at the big picture, you know, because there's so much other shit happening. If you picture this whole story, which I think you're supposed to, is like a giant game or like a big tabletop, you know?
Yeah.
There's so many pieces being moved that she has no idea about. There's so many other people with agendas that she has no idea about. She's just out here like a regular person, you know, talking about where is Sansa and maybe where is Arya. But there's so much other shit going on that she doesn't have a chance.
Yeah.
You know? And then, you know, she starts to wake up out of this dream and realize where she is and get a little bit of lucidity back. And it just got worse.
Yes. Yes. And, like, I really want to emphasize, this is the second to last episode we're recording on this book, which means we do not return to Brienne again.
Bitch, that was the other thing I wanted to mention.
That's it on her.
That's it, right? Like, I knew that in my soul and spirit, but I had not exactly said it out loud or thought it in that way. I had arrived at that place in a very roundabout way, but had not made the direct connection when I'm saying out loud to you all in real time that I see we only have 2 chapters left. I know I'm not getting another Brienne chapter, but I'm not allowed to look, right?
Yeah,
I can't confirm that I don't get another Brienne chapter, but you just did for me. And I was assuming that, but I couldn't say for certain. But there it is. This is it. This it. George Martin, if I see you,
it's on site.
On site. On site. I can't go to no cons. I can't go to no panels. Because if this motherfucker shows up anywhere where I am, there's a problem.
Oh, God.
Yeah, guys, this is it. This is the last word I get out of Brienne's mouth in this universe from this author, is that what is it? She screamed a word.
A word.
We don't know what the word is.
Nope.
So, I mean.
Do you have any guesses on that?
I mean, my instinct, like, I want to, like, my first thought is something just very basic, like no, or please, or, you know, stop. But then I'm thinking, okay, if I'm a master storyteller, then I need her to say something else to move it forward. So maybe she says, okay, you know, because what jumping ahead, what it is Stoneheart gives her an ultimatum. Either you are going to, I'll give you the sword back and you can kill Jaime Lannister with it, or you can hang today, I believe is basically what she's told, right? And Brienne is like, I'm not choosing. So that ends up being her choice, and they just go to hang her. So maybe at the last minute, she agrees to kill Jamie. It seems weird, but I'm trying to think what keeps the story going.
Right.
So maybe she agrees, like she screams, okay, okay. Or she just screamed, like, you had to pick one and I wouldn't. Okay, I picked Jamie. She screams Jamie's name. Something along those
A lot
lines.
of people think that it's sword. Because she said, like, you can either get the noose or the sword, is what Lady Storm says.
Okay. So
she just yells sword.
Okay,
finally.
perfect. So it means the same thing, but just a different word. Like she's saying, okay, I'll do it then. Okay. So I imagine that is supposed to be shocking because it goes against everything we know about Brienne, and we know that she loves Jamie, and why would she agree to kill him? I'm not shocked by that. You got a noose around your neck. People are going to scream out whatever at the last minute. Yeah, all right, I'll go kill Jamie.
Yeah.
My life for his, but
I don't even know if it's supposed to be shocking. Like, I kind of read it as it's supposed to be sort of sad.
that they had to.
Yeah, that they got her to a point where she was going, like it was either that or death, and you want your character to stay alive. You like her.
Yeah.
So it's just a sad moment of like, well, and she's going to have to do what she's going to have to do, but I hate this for her.
Right. And you know what's funny? Because in my brain, I don't know. I imagine they could keep Pod or something as leverage because they would need leverage. So, okay, she says she's going to kill him. So she promises. So you take the noose off her neck. You let her down. Maybe you give her sword back. Maybe you don't. And then what happens? How do you hold her to that? How do you make her do that? So they would need, to my mind, some kind of leverage over her. So that means what? They hold Podrick hostage until she goes back and kills.
That's interesting.
Jamie. Like, otherwise, what do they have over her to force her to do that once they let her off the noose?
Yeah. I hadn't considered, like, I was thinking that they might send one of their party with her to like keep an eye on her.
Maybe, but
it would be pretty easy to just either kill him or give him a slip.
Exactly.
Keeping Podrick is a smart idea, I think.
Like if she's even healed a little bit and they send one guy, I don't have any problem thinking Brienne could like fucking work somebody over real easy.
Yeah.
So they would definitely need something else over her. Maybe somebody, if they had more resources, and this is me not understanding exactly what the resources are, but making some assumptions. Maybe they could threaten her father. We're going to send somebody to the, fucking Sapphire Islands, whatever it's called, to Tarth, But that doesn't feel like the MO of the way Stoneheart and her merry band operate. So it seems much more like we're going to hold the collateral we already have, which is Podrick, and to a lesser extent, Kyle Hunt. But I don't, because Brienne does try to argue for his life, even though. Which was not shocking to me because I think I know who Brienne is, but they might mistake that and think that he means much more to her than he really does because she did try to save his life as well.
That's an interesting theory. I like that because we know that like whatever, but if they don't really understand who she is as a person, and don't see that she would defend anybody because she is just like that. Maybe.
Yeah. But before we get
we've reached a point, I just want to point out where you're theorizing on shit I don't have an answer to, and I'm not playing along. I genuinely don't know.
Right. Here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
So your suggestions are genuinely, I'm going,
fun.
Yeah.
Wow. What a world.
Indeed.
But before we get to the noose, we have her being delivered to the camp, and the first thing that happens is she kind of comes to, oh my God, you guys, this whole thing that it has been happening in her fever dream, and also as she starts to wake up, is she keeps thinking she sees the Hound, and it's especially disorienting because it turns out one more fucking person is wearing this goddamn helm. Turns out it's Lem this time.
Yeah.
Listen, when Thoros is like, is this who we are now? I felt that so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this what we have come to? We have been reduced to this. This is so beneath us. And it does feel like I may not have been 100% on board with everything y'all were doing before, but this definitely feels way beneath you. And it is wild to me that it turns out to be Catelyn who basically degrades this group to this point.
Yeah.
You know, I get it. Her fury and her rage is so poisonous that it has turned a group of men who were just towing the line just barely between, Robin Hood type shit,
Mm-hmm.
to just being straight up marauders.
Yeah.
And that one
That's a good
woman's fucking rage and fury was enough to do that. Like, and also I think really if I take it a little bit deeper, what she did is not so much Catelyn, drive them to debase themselves, but just sort of nudge them, because often it just takes a nudge.
Yeah.
And to like take the leash off of a person. You don't always have to drive them to be their worst self. Sometimes you just have to remove the impediment, whatever is keeping them from acting on those worst parts of themselves. You remove that and they fucking are out in the world doing whatever. So I think it's a combination of both of those things that has happened. These are men that didn't need to be pushed that hard. And then here she comes.
That's really interesting. Like the idea that we saw them as guys doing the right thing. And what if the doing the right thing part was circumstantial to the fact that they were like just going to be out here fighting and killing, and somebody just had to point them in the right direction, but lacking that, they just go off and do other
Yep.
I don't love that, but
yeah.
it seems very likely.
And just even characterizing them as good guys, as being super generous.
Sure.
They were just barely on the side of right. And again, like the whole Robin Hood thing was what gave them cover, right? We are protecting the little folk that are getting caught up in the fucking shenanigans of these large, rich families who don't give a fuck about the small people. We're just out here trying to protect them. We're robbing the rich to feed the poor kind of thing. And now they are out meeting justice to the people to anybody that they decide deserves it.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's anybody that's like loosely associated with Lannister. Oh my God, you guys, Brienne cannot stop talking about Jaime Lannister in her sleep, in her fever dream. And this ends up being really bad for her.
It does, though. I like when she wakes up and they're just like, "Oh, Jaime," and she's like, "What do you mean? No, not Jaime." And they're like, "Oh, it's weird because that was the name you just fucking wouldn't stop saying." And I was like, "No, bitch gave herself away."
Yeah, it is really unfortunate. Like fucking honest to God, like I don't think I can be a sleep talker, but it is generally like I used to like laugh in my sleep and freak Steven the fuck out.
Oh my God, that's so creepy.
It's super creepy, and I just I feel real bad about it. But what can you do?
Yeah, I think that like the thing that's sort of thematic throughout these books we've talked about is just how you can't win if you're not at the very top of the pyramid. Yeah. Like, and that's such a good, even Brienne, who is the daughter of a nobleman, she's gotten mixed up in everything. And in trying to do the right thing, even the people on her own side see it in such black and white terms that they don't believe that she could be still aiming to do the right thing, but colluding with a Lannister.
Yep. When you start to, and this is what happens in the world, this is definitely what's happening in this story. When you start to align people, families, sides with what's good, right? It almost like it's interchangeable. Then anyone that's not them becomes bad. Right. And what's happened in this book, for like, if you think about all of Brienne's allegiances, right? So she's aligned with Renly. So that makes her an enemy of the Lannisters, right? But then she's aligned with Jaime, and that makes her the enemy of everybody else. Right. Brienne is still the same person.
Yep.
Like, her value system doesn't change whatsoever. Her actions really don't change. How she responds to whatever's happening never really changes. The only thing that changes are who is in charge in this world, right?
Yep.
Whether it's Robert Baratheon's or Renly going for the crown, or now it's, Lannisters. That's it. Who's in charge and who's the good guy and who's the bad guy keeps changing.
Mm-hmm.
But she's still just the same person doing the same shit she's always done.
Yep.
But because she's aligned with Jaime Lannister now, that makes her, according to Catelyn, a traitor and a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Brienne is just being Brienne, doing Brienne shit.
Yeah, I think one of them at one point says, like, a tiger can't change his stripes, because she tries to say that Jaime is a different person, which we know is very true. He has changed a lot.
Yep.
But they don't believe it.
Right.
And frankly, that kind of change is so rare that not believing it makes total sense. I'm not even, like, mad about that, you know?
And here's the thing, too, that really frustrates me about this whole reveal with Lady Stoneheart is that Catelyn herself, when she was human, was willing to make a deal with Jaime Lannister. Right? She was in league with Jaime Lannister at least as much as Brienne has been. And that doesn't seem to matter.
I think it's sort of like, to her, I trusted him, and then I got my fucking throat cut by order of his family. Right. So, like, trusting him the one time bit me in the ass. You can, I'm absolutely not going to make that mistake again.
I guess, but also I find myself being a little bit resistant to that, because the Jaime, let me see. Let me make sure I'm not fucking up the sequence of events.
Okay.
So the first thing that goes wrong is Cat taking Tyrion hostage, right? That happens before Jaime or after?
Before Jaime. She frees him? Oh yeah, like, it's way before, because she does it as a result of her sons dying. Right. Like, so she's completely lost her shit.
Does that really early one in the game. Husband is still alive when she pulls that shit, right? Dad is still in King's Landing when she pulls all that bullshit. So Cat does that. Then later on, we get a hostage Jaime, because Robb is now warring, and they surprise him in, like, the Whispering Woods or whatever that was.
Right.
Snatch Jaime up, lock him up, and then Cat, I don't want to say disobeys, but goes behind the back of her son, the king, and does this side deal with Jaime Lannister in order to save her daughters. Right? Which is treason.
Right.
So, Cat, a little high and mighty, Lady Stoneheart, for someone who has also committed treason. But for you, it was a good cause, so it's not the same, because it's never the same when we do a fucked up thing.
Well, and again, it didn't work out.
But my point is that I understand your point being like, she has no trust for the Lannisters anymore because they don't hold up their end of the bargain. And then what happened at the wedding, right? 98% what happened at the wedding.
Sure.
But Cat, and we talked about it while they were happening, made a lot of really bad decisions. A lot of poor choices.
She sure did.
And could have been seen, my entire point is, could have been seen as also being in alliance with a Lannister. We all understand as readers that there were extenuating circumstances. She was trying to save her daughters. But ma'am, you could be brushed with the same, bit of paint.
Tarred with the same brush.
Tarred with the same brush, brushed with the same paint, as you are trying to do right now to Brienne. And then Brienne has this letter, which I thought was going to be really helpful. It wasn't.
It's, if anything, worse.
It was worse. It made shit worse. Because I thought the letter was much more explicit, but I forgot it needed to be vague for her own safety. And that shit, if there is ever a moment where I feel like if we could have just had some detail,
right,
it would have been super duper handy. But so all this to say, we end up in a situation where our Brienne, who has been throughout the course of the bulk of these stories, has been on this mission, this oath that she has sworn to Catelyn, right?
Mm-hmm.
That has been what she has wholly devoted herself to. To then be face to face with what remains of Cat, and then be found.
Cat's remains,
Right?
like.
ma'am.
I'll be here all week, folks.
But to come face to face with her and then be judged guilty because Brienne was doing everything she could to actually keep up her end of this deal, her end of this oath, is so fucking sad. It is such a fucking like smack in the face, right? It really stings, even worse than if Brienne had just been captured by a roving band of, bad guys and hung. The fact that she is judged guilty by the same person, or what remains of the same person that she has been 100% devoted to trying to make good on. Oh, what a fucking, just, my God.
Yep. He can be real mean-spirited.
It is incredibly mean-spirited. Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why, sir? Why?
There have been more than one time lately where you have reminded me so much of Linda Belcher, but this. Have you ever seen an episode where she just why?
No,
oh my God!
I don't think I have.
It's that was completely.
I keep walking around the apartment going, all right. Steve is just like, what the fuck is happening? I won't tell him.
So he doesn't even know what it's in reference to.
No,
he
has no idea. He has no idea.
Oh,
I'm just like,
lovely.
I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean?
All right. Don't worry about it, babe. Don't worry about it.
All right, guys. I'm sorry. I really went off there it wasn't a tangent. It was relevant, but I feel like I spent like a lot of time talking about one thing, and I'm apologies for that. But so yeah, they get her back to this like dungeon cave situation, and Thoros is here.
Yeah, Thoros is real ambivalent about everything.
Yeah, and like he's here, but he's not being held captive or anything. Right?
No.
He just has come down to check on her, I think is what's happening here, right? Okay. And he
is very much the only one that seems to give a shit if she lives or dies.
Absolutely. He seems to have a lot of remorse about the decision to, and it's fascinating because we find out that that Beric is dead now, like dead, according to Thoros. At least I don't know. He
basically traded himself in.
Yeah, we get that a little bit later too. I think at first he's just like, when Brienne realizes who Thoros is, she's like, "Oh yeah, you're with Dondarrion," and he's like, "Yeah, he's gone. His fire has gone out." And then I think just a little bit of a beat later, we find out that when they found Catelyn in the river, and it had been a few days. Ugh, I had forgot about that, y'all.
Yeah.
That Beric had asked Thoros to give her the kiss of life. I hate saying that. And Thoros refuses. So then Beric does it and trades, like you said, trades his for her.
Mm-hmm.
And did I miss a real explanation? It just says, Thoros says, he begged me. I wouldn't do it. And so he did it himself. Do we know why Thoros wouldn't do it?
I don't think so.
Like,
no, I think it's just assumed that he is so distraught over this woman who was like such a victim, having been not only killed, but like her naked body's thrown in the river. Like, it's just so. I that was the way I interpreted it, you know.
Yeah,
but...
I really wasn't sure. Like, it just, I was like, well, maybe it had just been too long. And Thoros was like, no, it's not going to work. It's been 3 days. It's too late. I can't do it. But he doesn't really say. And then Harwin, it says Harwin begged me to do it. I'll be honest, you guys, I don't remember who Harwin is exactly. I feel like I know the name really well, but I can't.
We have heard of Harwin, but I'm not sure how important it is to like.
But he's the one that begs for Thoros to bring Kat back to life, and he says no, and then Beric just does it himself. And it says that Thoros is just like, fuck, it worked. Like, god damn it, it worked. like he didn't expect that it would. So it feels very much like, as wild as it is for people to be amazed because they've been, bringing Beric back to life for a minute now, you think these people couldn't be surprised anymore. But here is Thoros being like, and that bitch rose. She fucking rose. May the Lord of Light protect her.
I mean, somebody who's been dead 3 days, it's definitely going to hit different.
And the fact that he says, may the Lord of Light protect us, almost suggests that Thoros thinks the fucking Lord of Light wasn't behind that. That's
a
something
really
else.
Good point.
That's something else.
Yeah, protect us from whatever the fuck it is that just got done, because he had nothing to do with that.
Yep. I just think that I read that and I was like, oh, whoa. But yeah, so she kind of is in this dungeon cave thing, and Thoros is getting her something to eat and telling her, I don't know if I want to say like filling her in, but
why not? I feel like that's fair.
He's kind of filling her in on like what they've been up to, a little bit, and he also letting her know what his gang, those people. It's funny when I said gang, I meant like
people.
I meant like
those people.
I meant like gang, like not like the Bloods and the Crips, but like the Little Rascals. That's what I was picturing in my head when I said gang.
Your little gang.
But telling her, kind of like what
him and his little friends,
what they've been up to. Y'all, they've been up to no good. That's what they've been up to.
Indeed.
And this is when she finds out that what they have planned and what everybody's estimation is of her and her little gang of friends, right? This is when we find out that Pod is in real trouble because he's out here telling everybody not only is he a squire, but he's squired for Tyrion and was like a hero of the Blackwater Bay battle. And that is some shit that these people don't need to know about.
It really is. Real unfortunate,
right? Yeah. So she's over here just like, oh, he's just a boy. Y'all got to spare him. And you know how boys brag, And Thoros is like, listen, I bet that there are still people in the world who are kind and have mercy. But you're not going to see any of that here.
That line got to me a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but don't be looking for it here, babe.
Yeah, I do not doubt that kindness and mercy and forgiveness can still be found somewhere in these 7 kingdoms, but do not look for them here. This is a cave, not a temple. When men must live like rats in the dark beneath the earth, they soon run out of pity, as they do of milk and honey. And it's true. We see it all the time.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah. Brienne is like, what about justice? Can you find that shit in a cave?
And he basically is like, ooh, justice. I used to love that shit.
Right? It tasted good. Shit was yum, 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 yum. That's what he says. It had a pleasant taste.
Oh, my God. What's that Renaissance lyric?
Oh, I'm not going to do it here.
Eat it up. Nom, nom, nummy, 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 nom. Oh, my God. Every time she gets to that part, I start cracking up a little bit.
Oh, it's so good. So they have a long conversation in this cave, and he is, again, talking about, he says this thing to her where he's like, some of my brothers were good when this all started. Some of them weren't. He says, less good. You gotta love that diplomacy. Less good. And he says, he says, though there are those who say it does not matter how a man begins, but only how he ends, I suppose it is the same for women. Which is ominous as fuck, because she hasn't met, she doesn't know yet what has happened, who she's about to meet, or any of that shit, right? And what he is saying, he's talking about Catelyn. We know it as readers, right?
Yeah, you think it's about her, but...
And then...
it's wild how it's like, it's her life, but very little of any of this really has to do with her.
Yes! Which also, like, not to be a bummer, but it can be like that in our lives, too. You ever feel like that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's, like, so much going on in your life, but, like, a lot of it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, then it's time to meet her. And it took a whole book for us to get here.
Yes, ma'am, it did.
But here we are. And the person that comes to grab her is Lem, and she mistakes him for the Hound. And then realizes again what's happening here, and that it's just somebody that took it. He takes his helm off, and she sees, she puts it all together. I killed Rorge. He took the helm from Clegane's grave, and you stole it off his corpse. That's what Thoros is just like, word? Dude, Lem, really? A dead man's helm? We doing that?
He is so disappointed.
He really is. In all of them, it seems like. Yeah.
And Lem feels different. Like last time we saw him, he just
so
seemed
different.
A lot more
so different.
Jovial.
Like he's still wearing this yellow cape. And I was like, you don't get to wear that anymore. Take that off.
Yeah. He's got the helm. May as well ditch the fucking cape. You are transforming completely, sir. You may as well just do it.
Yep. He says something too about like my wife and children being murdered. And like I knew that was something. It had been mentioned very early on, maybe. Is that, like, did Lem have a wife and children that were murdered?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was kind of feeling like, I thought Lem was out here just fucking everybody.
Me too. So
I'm going to go ahead and look him up and see what we get, because I don't think we're going to get any spoilers, like, at this point.
Yeah.
And see what we... But continue, and I'll circle back once I find something.
Just sort of the idea that, like, I forget where I was going. I got distracted with the Lem thing. But yeah, the this energy that Lem is bringing is very different than when we had met him initially. And this idea of like, oh, I'm seeking vengeance for the wife and child that was murdered, feels like something that you say to justify this wrath you're on with Stoneheart. To make yourself be like on the same. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
And they take Brienne while you're looking for the Lem info to, and they all keep calling her Brienne. He calls her the whore. Bring the whore. Dude.
I know, right?
And they have Catelyn is like, she's got this cloak on. She's got like a scarf wrapped all around her face. So really she's, all you can see is her eyes, they keep saying. In her hand, there's a crown. It's a bronze circlet ringed with iron swords. She's studying it, her fingers stroking the blades. Guys, what is that? I know I'm supposed to know, but you guys know I'm bad at stuff like this. Whose crown is that?
Repeat the description of it.
A bronze circlet ringed by iron swords. Did she go back for Rob's crown somehow?
See, now, I'm wondering about this because I could swear the whore in the camp when Jamie was there was wearing Rob's crown. Remember?
We talked about that.
And we mentioned that Lem was in the camp. Did he steal it? Maybe he brought it back?
Did they go and fuck that camp up after our people left?
I don't know if there was enough people to really fuck the camp up, because that was like hundreds of people. But I could see Lem being there like, oh, I'm going to sing. And then he steals the crown and bails.
Maybe. And just,
I don't know.
And just gives it back to her because it was her son's crown and she would like a nice gift. I mean, no, I'm not. That sounded shitty. I wasn't being shitty, you guys. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
That came out terrible. And I didn't mean it how it sounded. I meant literally. I meant it. Never mind.
I'm sorry. That was, she just wanted a little present. She just wanted a little gift.
But you know what? It would track with this sort of like if Lim is doing this thing where he's almost like over identifying with Catelyn and like getting swept up in the vengeance of it, that seems like a move that he would make. Like, not only am I embracing this backstory that is may not be 100% true. You'll let me know in a minute or two if you find anything, but also seeing that crown and being enraged and incensed.
Right.
And needing to get it back to deliver it to Catelyn. If he's really just 100% all in with her mission statement, that feels very on brand.
I just wanted to mention, I'm looking at Austin's notes because I was looking to see if there's anything about Lem. And he reminds us, thank you, Austin, one of the last things Catelyn hears is Roose Bolton stabbing Robb and saying Jaime Lannister sends his regards.
Oh, that's right.
So it really sounds like he was part of the whole thing.
That is really important. But we know that Jaime wasn't part of this.
We know, yeah.
I mean, you know what? I don't even know if I really thought about, like, why would Roose say that?
Roose said it because Jaime said, tell them I send my regards. Like, Jaime said it when he was at Roose's recovering. Remember when he is at Harrenhal and he has dinner with Roose?
Oh, right.
And so he says it with total sincerity, not knowing what's coming.
Oh.
And so Roose goes ahead and delivers the message anyway.
What? Roose Bolton, sir.
Yeah, he went and fucked some shit up bad.
Why are you? You know what, though? Because, you know what? I don't want to give Roose too much credit, even though he doesn't probably need any credit from me. But I imagine there was all right, bear with me for a second, you guys. Catelyn released Jaime from bondage.
Correct.
With the idea, like, you promised to save my daughters, get them home safely to me. We want to make sure, if I am Tywin or even a Roose Bolton or somebody that's on that side, if I want to make sure that action never becomes a point where they can have a building or a bonding right over.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to make sure that there's never a moment where Jaime or Catelyn can be like, well, remember that time I set you free? We can work together again. If you want to make sure that is destroyed forever. Well, no, because you're killing her. So you're not worried about her being around later to call a favor.
Well, you know that she will be, though, because you're writing it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see anything
about
in
Lem.
Any of there's like a wiki of Ice and Fire. It is not mentioned at all that he is married. And so there's a part of me that's like, did he just make that up? But that is a wild thing to make up in front of people that I would assume would know you're making it up. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to think about this.
Yeah.
And I remembered him being a little bit more jovial, but he is described as being called Lemon because he's a sour sort. So perhaps I am just misremembering what he was like. I don't know.
Maybe. I thought they called him Lemon because of that yellow cloak.
He did, but like then it was part of the joke, like lemon cloak. He's a sour sort.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should just take it at face value. I just didn't remember him mentioning this ever before. Like, and he was part of, apparently, like, according to a source that's semi-canon, that he was part of the original crew that rode out with Beric from the Red Keep. So
what does semi?
I know, right? That was my question also, and I'm gonna see if that was actually cited, because I saw that and I was like, I'm trying. Yeah, I can't. I lost track of where it said that now.
Yeah.
It literally said in a some semi-canon or somewhat canon. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. According to a semi-canon source. So here we go. We got a little footnote 6. That reference brings me to George R.R. Martin's A World of Ice and Fire, which that feels very canon. Why is that called semi-canon? That's weird.
Maybe that's just to have a distinction from being like from the novels proper. But
yeah, I don't know.
This still seems like a weird phrase because I thought we all understood that was canon.
Yeah.
But all right. Okay. So Brienne meeting Lady Stoneheart. I was in the middle of describing her. It is quite the effect she's got going.
Yeah, she has to hold her throat
whenever she speaks. Yeah. She's studying the crown, and he's just like, my lady, here she is. The Kingslayer's whore, says someone else. And
everybody's just so rude.
Yeah. This is when one of the guys is like, if I had money for every time you said his fucking name, I'd be rich. And Brienne starts to try to explain, like, no, you guys have got the wrong idea. And all they will do is basically just start yelling how she's a lying whore. And that works two ways, because she's a lying whore and also a lion whore. Thank you.
I hate you for that. Wow.
And they are really leaning in to this fucking sword of hers, because this is some damning evidence. And they talk, the sword has the light from this blah, 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 blah. It's got the red and black rubies, and does the thing have a lion's head? It doesn't, does it?
I thought it did.
I thought it did too, but I'm looking for a description. Another outlaw stepped forward. Oathkeeper was in his hand. This says it all. He slid the sword, placed it in front of Lady Stoneheart. In the light of the fire pit, the red and black ripples in the blade almost seemed to move. Woman in gray had eyes only for the pommel. Yep, a golden lion's head.
Yeah.
With ruby eyes that shone like 2 red stars. So, yeah, that is doing her no favors in this company. And
sucks to suck.
And this is when Brienne is adorable here, because she says to these people, this sword was given to me for a good purpose. You don't understand. Sir Jaime swore an oath to Catelyn Stark. Like, she's not saying it right there.
She is still not getting it.
She does not see what is happening. And who could blame her? Because what is happening is banana pancakes.
Mm-hmm.
Who could be prepared for this? And Brienne is just like, this fucking sucks. These guys are not going to understand it. My words, they're not going to believe me. So she's just like, I have to make them understand. So she starts to give them the whole fucking story. So what had happened was, Catelyn had these daughters, right? But by the time we reached King's Landing, they were gone. So then Jaime sent me out to try to find Sansa. And one of the guys is just like, they are like interrupting her story to ask her for more information, as if she can talk her way out of this. And
right.
It's so hard to read. So one of them is like, all right, so if it's true and you found Sansa, what the fuck? What are we going to do next? And she's like, well, I would have protected her and taken her somewhere safe. Okay, yeah, where?
Mm-hmm.
And this is when,
that need answers.
Bitch, because we do not have answers, do we? We do not have answers.
She doesn't even know. She doesn't even know. Nope. She's just saying.
She has been trekking, schlepping, sludging, and a bunch of other words that are hard for me to say, through these woods, to and fro, looking for these girls to do what exactly? Y'all, I had to take a minute. Because I think we've talked about it a little bit, like, what would be the plan? But I don't think I stopped ever and gave it more than a minute's thought in the moment as we were discussing. And then it would just fly right out of my head, because I was so focused on the hunt, on the search, on the quest, on the mission. Bitch, where was she taking her?
Mm-hmm.
Where we going? Where are you taking her back to Tar?
Cave.
Child.
A cave somewhere.
Right? So it is in this moment where the ridiculousness of not having a plan is laid bare in front of everybody is for just how ridiculous it actually is. And she's just left standing there being like, all right, well, you made a really good point, but still. And it just goes downhill. And then we see Hyle finally for the first time. And Hyle, has been fired from Randall Tarley.
Mm-hmm.
But that word hasn't made it out to everybody. So these motherfuckers think that he might as well still be one of Randall's dudes. This is no good. They have beat the shit out of him. And we talked about Pod already, telling the whole damn
Described
world.
as looking literally like unrecognizable.
Mm-hmm.
That's how bad he's beaten.
Bad. Yeah. So this is where we are, y'all. Everybody has decided that all of three of them are fucking Lannisters. They're lions, is what they keep saying. They're lions. And Brienne is begging and pleading for them to at least release Hyle and Pod. They are not here for it.
Nope.
And then finally, Catelyn says something. And you can't even hear what she says. Somebody has to then tell us what she said.
It's Lem that's translating, right?
Let's see. The woman in gray gave no answer, studied. Then finally she puts her hand to her throat. I don't understand. What does she say? No, it's the Northmen. They keep calling the young Northmen.
Oh, okay.
Who I don't know who that is, but it's interesting that the person who is somebody from the North. That would make sense for Cat, right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
But I don't know if we find out who exactly that is. Maybe that's Harwin. I don't know. But what it is she has asked, what's the name of this blade? Brienne answers. The woman says, she speaks again. We find out that she says, no, it should be called Oathbreaker. And she names the sword False Friend, like you.
Mm-hmm.
And Brienne is like, bitch, we just met. Who was that false to you? And Brienne is in the middle of speaking. She's like, the Northman says, when have I been false? The Northman says to her, and Brienne is like, that can't be. And then the Northman says, can it be, talking to Brienne, can it be that you have forgotten that you once swore yourself to her service? And Brienne is like, that can't be right. She's dead. And somebody...
How can you have forgotten? No, she didn't forget. This woman is rotting away, sir. Can we just be real for a fucking moment?
No, we cannot. We cannot. Nope. They are all acting like Brienne is the one who's wild, and she's tripping.
Just so. Are you being purposely obtuse, sir? Are you being purposely concave? What's the opposite of obtuse?
I don't know.
Acute. That doesn't work because acute can mean like.
It does not.
Yeah, well, never mind. Your Honor, I retract my statement.
Oh my God. I'm going to just start doing that randomly in my life now. I'm just going to start, Your Honor, I retract my statement. Withdrawn. There it is. Withdrawn.
There's a part in Community, I'm sorry, where they're doing like a really fake trial for a very real crime. And she starts saying, is it true that the defendant pops pills? Withdrawn. Is it true that he beats his wife and child? Withdrawn. And she just keeps saying like really inflammatory shit and then immediately saying withdrawn, like so it doesn't count. And I have been very tempted to sort of use that in everyday life, but I feel like it doesn't work if you're not in an actual courtroom when you're doing it.
It's funny. It's really funny though. I do kind of like it as a real world application. I'm gonna have to fucking workshop that, see how I can employ it. But Brianna's putting this together, and we get a description of what Lady Stoneheart looks like, and it is harrowing. It is not great. Yeah. It is, you guys know it. I don't think I have to read it. It is just it's a mess. The whole thing is a mess. And poor Brienne is just like, But she was so beautiful. Her skin was so smooth and soft. And she
She
starts
was
to
so
cry.
handsome.
Yeah. And tears fill her eye. And she goes, Lady Catelyn, they said that you were dead. And this is when Thoros gives us the nitty gritty of how it went down. And Brienne has a moment of being like, I am still fucking in a fever dream.
Mm-hmm.
This cannot be real life. And you know what? Fucking fair.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And so it's just the rest of this is Brienne just sort of again trying to make Catelyn really at this point now understand that I didn't betray you. Everything I've done has been trying to fulfill the oath that I swore. Jaime even tried to keep his oath, right? He to the point where he is the one who sent me out with this stunning sword and this parchment, and he is why I'm able to still be out here trying to find your daughters. And it says that every time she tries to speak, someone is just like, well, all she wanted was her son to be alive. All she wanted was the men who betrayed him to be dead, you know?
Yeah.
And this guy who's speaking, they call him, in this moment, they're calling him the big man. I don't know if we got his name earlier, but he says, she wants to feed the crows like they did at the wedding, the Red Wedding, the Freys and the Boltons. We'll give her those, as many as she likes. All she asks from you is Jaime Lannister. And this is when Brienne is like trying to, again, like, you don't understand. He's not the man that you knew. He's not the man that he was. Catelyn don't give a fuck about none of this bullshit.
Mm-mm.
And she tells her,
it's just like, answer the question. Are you going to fucking do this? Or do we have to kill you?
Yep. And Brienne says, I'm not going to choose. And they're like, well, that's basically a choice, bitch. And they string all three of them up.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Hyle is like, fuck it, I'll kill Jaime.
I love that. I love that. Oh my God. Like, dude, you aren't part of this. Right. It's not about you.
That's so good. You are not part of this. That is so fucking good. Yeah. And this is when Lim is like, because Brienne is just like, if you let them go, meaning Pod mainly, like she says, send Pod to my dad, and he will pay you with sapphire and silver. And this is when Lim is like, and she calls him the Hound too. It's so wild.
I know. It's
says,
so disorienting.
Right? I want she doesn't call him. It's written that way. I want my wife and daughter back, said the Hound. That's wild. Whoever is wearing the helm just gets to be the Hound. And he's like, yeah, can your father do that? Can you give me that? Which, sir, this is the first we're hearing about your wife and child.
Sorry, like, I don't want to be in your face accusing you that you're lying about having a wife and child, but a little bit I'm accusing you.
A little bit I am. I think you just like to be able to say that. I feel like you like the fucking righteousness of now not just being a wandering marauder, but now you're a righteous vengeance person. You are, making the wrongs right. You're handing people what they deserve, and there's some sort of high road to it. And then y'all, it ends with the three of them getting these ropes around their necks. We hear Hyle cursing them. Pod is not saying a word. He never even lifts his eyes up. His feet are jerked off the ground. We have Brienne going, if this is another dream, it's time for me to wake up. If this is real, it's time for me to die. She sees Pod twitching. She opens her mouth. It says Pod is kicking, choking, dying. She sucks the air in, and then she screamed a word. And that's how that shit ends. Yep. Sobering.
Indeed
Sobering.
It is.
And her screaming sword, it feels 100% right. I think if we ever were to get a book, that would be the word. I think that's right. Yeah. Or the name of the sword, whether it's Oathbreaker or Oathkeeper, She asks for it by name, or she just says it. the word. I'm not sure. And then we go to
I guess
Cersei's
that would
chapter.
count as one word.
Oh, yeah. I would think so, because it's just a name, right? So, well, no, it doesn't necessarily mean it'd be one word. Oathbreaker, Oathkeeper.
I think it's written as one word.
It's written as one. Look at that. But yeah, and that's how that chapter ends. And as you mentioned earlier, this is the last we get. This is the last of Brienne that exists in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah.
This could literally be it. This could be all we ever get, in a very real way.
Yep.
And yet, I gotta read this other ass book.
It's
not fair. And then we go to Cersei's chapter. I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one because this shit is all over the place.
This is a messy.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you lead. You be the Sherpa.
So we. Ma'am. Cersei here is just. She thinks she has won so completely, and
she got a Kool-Aid grin,
gleeful. I mean, dancing in her seat, wriggling with excitement.
Mm-hmm.
A Gollum-like smile is what I'm imagining, even though I know she's trying to keep that inside. I have to wonder how effective it really is. Like, she fancies herself an actress, and I really don't believe anybody believes her shit, but I can't tell. It's hard to know.
She's grinning like that gif of the fucking Grinch.
Exactly. The little curls up on the corners. And so there's a Septa who is here explaining why Marjorie has been taken along with all of her cousins to the Great Sept and is being kept there. And she says, the Septa, they can't come back until their innocence has been proved. Innocence? Why, you need only look upon their sweet young faces to see how innocent they are. Oh my God. And then she's like, well, it says that they fucked around and they were committing treason. Cersei put a hand to her breast. Tell me, who is spreading such calumnies? I don't know, is that how you say it? Calumnies?
I've never seen that word before.
About my good daughter. I do not believe a word of this.
My God.
My sweet son loves Marjorie with all his heart. She could never have been so cruel as to play him false. This is how I imagine her doing all of these lines.
I do too, quite frankly. She's like this acting school like the Jenna Maroney went to, the school of tricks in like Tampa, Florida, whatever the fuck it is.
Dramatic tricks. So this is when it's revealed that the accuser is a knight of her household, and eventually she's just like, nobody could possibly have a thing to say. And she's like, Maester Pycelle will do an examination to double check, because the Septa is saying, well, we inspected all of them and none of them are virgins. So there's that. And she's like, no. Pycelle will do it. And Pycelle,
oh my God,
Pycelle had gone the color of curdled white. At council meetings, the wretched old fool cannot say enough. But now that I need a few words from him, he has lost the power of speech. But finally, he's just like, I don't have to examine her. She's asked me for moon tea, like, a lot.
He's not even, like, putting anything into this act either.
Nope. And everybody at that point completely loses their mind. And Cersei just sits back in her chair, exhales with a sense of deep satisfaction, and has a sip of her wine and taps her fingers on the arm of the chair and is just like, she's just savoring it so much. And there's a point where she looks over and sees Moon Boy by the door. A fool he may be, but he wears his folly honestly. Maggie the Frog should have been in motley too, for all she knew about the morrow. No golden shrouds, no Valonqar. I am free of your croaking malice at last. She doesn't know.
She doesn't
Cersei doesn't know.
I just,
So this is when Orain Waters is like, yo, I could launch the rest of the Drummons we've got because it's highly likely that we're going to get a Tyrell, like, you know, coming down on our head over this. And they have to go to the Red Wine Fleet for that. But nevertheless, which really bites her in the ass later on.
Listen, she's like, that is a great idea. I am so glad that you thought of it. I thought she was going to be like, I'm so glad I thought of it.
Oh my God. She's like one step from that. Yeah.
And tells them, I want you to do that. Get all your crews out there and ready to go. You're right. That shit does not go well for her. And it switches. Everything switches on her so fast.
So fast. Some sort of trial may be necessary to disprove these base calumnies and lies. I went with a different pronunciation this time. And, you know, this whole farce ends with her going to see Tommen and like gathering him up and kissing him. And he's like, why?
Why are you crying?
What's going on, Ma? Because you're safe, she wanted to tell him, because no harm will ever come to you. You are mistaken. A lion never cries. This bitch does not, like, the gaslighting. Fucking endless.
It is, we've said it every time. It is just something to be in her POV. It really is. I love there's a moment when they're talking about how all of Marjorie and her cousins have failed their Maidenhead test. And so she's just like, hope you enjoyed those horse riding trips.
You know what, though? She says, I hope you enjoyed your ride. And I'm wondering if she's talking about sex. Like, does she really think that they fucked?
Does she not say anything about horses?
I think she just says, I hope they enjoyed their rides.
Oh, I thought they were talking about horse riding because I thought that had been mentioned earlier, which is also like a way you would break your hymen.
Yeah.
Right?
I totally get what you're saying, but I had interpreted that differently.
I have to find out when. I don't know if she thinks that later when she visits Marjorie or if she thinks that earlier before Pycelle talks about the moon tea. I'm sorry. I don't know where to look to find it to see.
No, it's fine. I'm trying to go through. I hope that Marjorie and her cousins enjoyed those rides of theirs.
Oh yeah, that's all.
That's what says. That's the way she says it.
Oh well, maybe I just made that then.
It could be either. You know, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I immediately went to that. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow there. Though.
No, it's fine. So she brings out warrants to Tommen for him to sign. None of them actually has the name of the people being arrested on them.
Shit is all blank.
Yep. Then she just writes that shit in after. Sir Talad the Tall, Zalabar Ho, Hamish the Harper, Hugh Clifton, Mark Mullendore, Bayard Norcross, Lambert Turnberry, Horace Redwine, Hobber Redwine, and a certain churl named Watt, who called himself the Blue Bard. And she gives this over to Osfrid Kettleblack.
Who can't read.
Like, gather all these guys up. Yeah, he can't read. He has to go find somebody to like tell him what they say, which is really remarkable. Like,
I love this bit.
She can't just tell him, I guess.
It says that he shuffled through the warrants as wary of the words as if they had been roaches crawling across the parchment.
Oh, God. And he tells her here that there's a crowd gathering outside the Sept, and she's sort of like, well, what's going on? And he's just like, oh, they're just yelling for Marjorie to be released. And she's like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. Just let him rage. There's not going to be able to accomplish anything. And close the city gates. No one is to enter or leave without my leave until all this is done and settled. So
that's going to be bad too.
I wonder if that's going to is that going to be upheld now that she's in custody? Will they keep it closed?
I don't know. That's a good question, actually, because who do we find out that's running the show when this is over? I think it's Pycelle and somebody else, and they're going to send for Kevin and see if he's interested in coming back. But I can't remember who the other person was.
Oh man, the fact that that they're going with this, it's amazing.
Is it Merryweather? Is it him and Merryweather?
No, Merryweather flees. Remember?
Oh,
he
shit.
fucking bails.
Oh shit!
Yeah. And she's like, it's Harris Swift. That's who it is.
Oh, that's right. Because she's like really glad that Tana isn't caught because she's like, that could have fucked me up.
Yep. Which I really wonder, like, I guess that tells me where Tana's loyalty really lay, because I was sort of thinking she was gathering info to use against Cersei, and this would be the perfect time to do that, and she's not doing it. So
I will admit two things to you all right now. One was, as I was reading this, I was waiting for Tana to bust through the doors any minute and be like, and furthermore, this is also what she's been up to. And I will also say that I don't know exactly when she says that Merryweather had left town or how she says it.
It's way later.
Because I remember the bit about her saying, and I'm so glad that Tana got away, but I'd be forgetting that Tana is married to Merryweather. So I didn't connect those two things. So that's why I was like, oh yeah, no, Merryweather is going to be left behind because he's the hand. Bitch, I forgot that's who her husband was.
So we have a visit by Qyburn. Hamish is having difficulty breathing. He's calling for a maester. Tell him he can have one as soon as he confesses. He is too old to have been amongst the lovers, but no doubt he was made to play and sing for Marjorie while she was entertaining other men. We will need details. I shall help him to remember them, Your Grace. And I was just like, oh boy.
We knew that this fucking cockamamie plan of hers was just going to fall apart at the slightest pulling of a single thread, right?
It hinges completely on everybody being willing to lie up until the moment of their deaths. And she is so confident that she holds enough power over everyone that they would be willing to, which is wild.
That she thought that these people were going to take beatings for her and not give her up immediately is so arrogant and so detached from reality that it is almost awe-inspiring. Like, there's a woman on TikTok, she's a lawyer, and she, like, her whole shtick is like the things your lawyer wants you to do, right? Right. And so, or the things your lawyer wants you to never do, either or. And one of the videos is her being like, never text it. Never text it. Yeah. You think your friends won't turn on you? They'll turn on you. You think they won't subpoena your entire text chat history? They will. Never write it down. Never write it down. But it's true. Like, we all think, that every person is going to, like, be willing to suffer and die to hold our confidence. That is not how that shit goes. No. You're lucky if you have one person in your life. Maybe. The
only time that can work is if they have just as much to lose. And even then, they can make a deal so they don't have just as much to lose.
And here's the thing, and this is a really good example of it, is they don't even have to make a deal to give you up.
True.
They will just start giving shit up, hoping it leads to their own freedom or to the end of whatever pain or torture they are suffering, right? Yeah. Like the Kettle Black that's being beaten, who ends up giving Cersei up, he's still fucking chained up and being beaten. Yep. Right? He's still going to have to pay for his crimes as determined by the Seven. And he gave her up anyway. Because once you start putting that force, you start applying that pressure, people crack. Yes. And if you are lucky, you pick a good person who is strong enough that maybe it takes a little bit longer for them to crack, and maybe that buys you time to do what you need to do or get away or whatever it might be. But most of us are going to crack almost immediately. And then
you don't have to torture me. You just show me that you have torture tools, and I'm going to sing like
it's a wrap. It's a wrap. And then you couple that with the quality of people that you and I have been mocking for the entirety of this book. The quality of people that Cersei has aligned herself with. These are not good, strong people.
Nah.
These are not people that are going to take a licking.
Which, ironically, she purposely picks people who are not strong.
Yep.
But then expects them to be strong.
Yep.
It's just...
It's utter nonsense. And it blows. And the fact that she does not understand how this is about to blow up in her face until the literal second before it does is so striking. Like, when he says no, when she asks, like, it's time to leave.
Yeah.
She Pikachu face.
She does, though. Ugh,
yeah.
You guys.
Wild. It's wild.
So she gets dressed with Taina's help. And
in her most like somber, devout, pious clothing that she has. Nothing too fancy, too extra, too frilly, because she has to go pray with this guy.
And on the way there, Lady Taina's like, well, what if Margaery protests her innocence and demands like a trial by combat? And Cersei's like, LOL, good luck. The only Kingsguard that remain for her defense are the oldest, fattest ones who are going to get completely sliced apart in a second by whoever goes up against them. And that turns out to be a real problem for Cersei herself.
Sure does.
Pretty shortly.
Sure does.
And you had mentioned about like, it doesn't seem like Cersei's thinking about how all of the Kingsguard are no longer in the city because she's so worried about her son's safety. And yet, but it turns out this was like part of her little scheme.
Yeah. Yeah.
So congratulations, you played yourself.
She really did. She really did. And when in her desperation at the end of begging for Jaime and people having to be like, I think it's Qyburn who's allowed to come visit her. And he's just, whoever it is like, Jaime, you will remember he only has one hand, right? And she's just like, tell him anyway, I love him 3 times.
Oh, God. So she gets to the Sept. There is, as she was warned, a pack of people outside, but they're not as completely out of control as they have been at other points. So she's feeling all right about that. They let her in without much trouble. And she is led to see the High Sparrow briefly before she's allowed to go and speak to Margaery, who is barefoot in this little shift in a cold cell with no furniture except a straw pallet on the floor. And Cersei is trying to thread this needle of pretending she's here to help, but also doing basically trying to, you have no hope left. It's over kind of thing. And Margaery seems at first to believe maybe she is here to help. And eventually it becomes pretty clear. Yeah. And she finally tells her that she's like an evil bitch.
Yeah. I love this at the beginning where Cersei is bringing her information and telling Margaery about her cousins as well. And she's like, Margaery knows, that they took my cousins as well. And Cersei's like, Lady Taina has gone to speak with one of them at least. I think it's Alla. And to let her know that, she's not been forgotten. And Margaery is still in her, like she's talking about how they took her clothes from her and they won't let her see her cousins, and that they keep begging her or telling her she needs to confess and admit her fornications, and they won't let me sleep. This is Margaery talking about her experience. And she says, last night I confessed to the Septa that I wanted to scratch her eyes out. And Cersei is like, it's a shame you didn't do it.
They would have really hated that, and it would make you look super guilty. So maybe next time. And
then Cersei has to tell Margaery that your cousins are also being accused, and that part seems news to be Margaery.
Yes,
and she's still calling Cersei your grace. She's like, this is crazy. Can you just get us out of here? None of this makes sense. And I wish that I could, but the holiness has these knights now that you told him you could have, ma'am. By the way, and Cersei brings up the idea of a trial. And Margaery's just like, a trial? Because now it's like, wait, they're serious? A fucking trial? And then Marjorie is like, Cersei's like, how else are you going to prove your innocence? And then Marjorie is just like, oh, trial by battle. But Loras is hurt. And then Marjorie gets hit. This is the moment where she gets it.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Right. 6 brothers, Cersei says. And Marjorie is like, bitch, right in my face.
Mm-hmm. This is so, and I just like going back real quick to Cersei being like, it's a shame that you didn't claw her eyes out. It's funny her being like, oh, it'll make you look so much more guilty if you do that. I wish you had. And then later, Cersei is causing such a fuss and fighting tooth and nail and really going for it. And it's just so hilarious of her being like, oh, it would make you look so bad. But then it's her turn. And she
engages
like,
in the exact behavior.
Yep, completely.
Like she tries to run.
Oh, literally sprinting, and they are just like tackling her like fucking linebackers in the hallway, carrying her like a sack of flour down.
Oh my God. You know, I do have a question, and I don't know if it matters at this point because we're so close to the end of the book. I'm assuming, I don't know if we get another Cersei chapter or not, and I don't know if you're going to tell me that or not. But I'm curious, because of the Lancel angle in the show is what gets Cersei in trouble, right?
Right.
Here, it is the Kettle Black admitting that Cersei is behind this entire... No, that Cersei and them had sex is what the charge is.
Correct.
So that makes me wonder if the Lancel thing ever turns out to be a thing in the books or not.
It's not just that they had sex either. She had him kill the High Septon.
Oh, does he admit to that too?
Yeah, he does in that scene.
Oh, shit, y'all. Hold up.
Yeah.
Because that is very, very serious.
Mm-hmm.
That is very serious. Let me see. You whipped him. I was going to... How many times?
Hold on. We haven't even gotten there yet.
That's right. We'll get there in a second. Sorry.
So yeah, this conversation ends, like I said, with Marjorie just being like, oh, you evil fucking bitch. You did all of it. I'm seeing it. I cannot believe this. And Cersei doing the whole, oh, you must be very upset. I will forgive those words. Kind of like she keeps thinking to herself, who knows who's listening, which is likely true. But she winds up heading down to see the High Septon, and she tries to pretend once again Marjorie is innocent. And he's like, no, they've investigated. She has no maidenhead. And an anointed knight has sworn that he has fucked her, and others have lain with her as well. And Cersei is like, yeah, we arrested all those guys. I would like to head home now. And he says, no, it was only a word, one little word. But to Cersei, it felt like a splash of icy water in the face. She blinked, and her certainty flickered just a little. Sir Osney will be held securely, I promise you. He is held securely. Here, come. I will show you. Cersei is like, I don't feel like I should, but there's nothing else to be done. And she goes into the chamber where he is hanging from the ceiling, having been whipped all over, legs, ass, back, everywhere. And she was not prepared for this kind of torture. He came and confessed on his own. Why was there a need to torture him? And the Septon is like, yeah, it's weird. He did come and confess on his own, but I have never seen somebody so fucking swaggy when they were confessing a terrible sin that they were so cut up about that they wanted to come and get forgiveness. He just seemed like the cat that ate the canary is the phrase that I like the best. And we decided we were going to press it a little bit, see if that was exactly what had happened. And turns out he had some wild other shit to say. And he says, Osney, the wall, you promised me the wall. He is mad. You have driven him mad. Sir Osney, did you have carnal knowledge of the queen? Aye. That one there She's the queen I fucked. The one sent me to kill the old High Septon. He never had no guards. I just come in when he was sleeping and pushed a pillow down across his face. Cersei whirled and ran. Yep, bit too late for that. The Kettle Blacks. I need the Kettle Blacks. I'll send in Osford with the gold cloaks and Osmond with the Kingsguard. Osney will deny it all once they cut him free. I'll rid myself of this High Septon just as I did the other. And I'm just thinking, like, girl, you just think every time anything goes wrong, you could just kill the person that you don't want in the way, and then that's the end of it. That hasn't been how it has worked ever. Look where you are because you killed a Septon already. What are you doing? She really thinks of herself as untouchable. And she gets grabbed by a bunch of Septas. I'll have your heads for this. Let me pass. I am a Lannister. Unhand me. Jaime will slice you open from throat to cunt. I am the queen. And they finally put her in a chamber. There is a shift, an ewer of water, a chamber pot. She tears the shift into pieces. She breaks the ewer of water. She breaks the chamber pot. And it isn't long before she starts to wish she hadn't done that. Because it's mighty chilly. And there is nothing to drink. And she just... Later, they give her another shift and she doesn't protest and puts it on. And they bring her more water and she doesn't break that ewer. They don't seem to bring her another chamber pot, though, which it's mentioned that she just has to, like, piss in the corner and watch it trickle across the floor is how it's written, which that sucks. But that's such a great encapsulation of who she is. Somebody who's extremely short-sighted, who busts shit up just to make a point without thinking about how that's going to shake out later, and then winds up trying to take backsies because that didn't go the way she had thought it would go.
Yeah, it just, again, how quickly this happens is wild to me. And also, I have to admit, it is still a little hard for me to believe. I know that he tried to do a lot of setting the groundwork for how this could happen, right? With the sparrows, having her end up giving him the right to do this, to judge people, to hold people, to have an armed, faction and have his own little army. But it's still wild to me that the two queens at this point could be taken in, and that's just it. Nobody can come get them. Like, there's a part of me that just has trouble with that, and it isn't sure just how realistic this is. And I understand that this is based on some historical shit, and they're in the church and blah 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 blah. I get all that. There's a part of me that's just like, really, 2 whole queens? Can't nobody do nothing? Really?
They're women. If these were men.
And that's where I'm heading.
Yeah.
That is exactly where I'm heading. And I feel like if someone were so inclined, they would probably write us a long thing and tell us how, there's, even in George Martin's world, there's history of, like, men being taken this way. And maybe there is. I don't know. But I really do feel like it's got to be because they're women, right? Because you're not snatching up a king and holding him like this. I just don't see it. You're definitely not snatching up a Targaryen and holding him like this.
Oh my
God! I don't know. It's fascinating still for the story, but there is a part of me that is just like a whole ass. I know she's queen regent, but really, Marjorie's a whole queen. What are we doing? Really? I don't know, y'all.
Well, if she's committing treason, like, by fucking other dudes, that is a really, really big offense. She could be giving birth to a bastard who's going to inherit the throne.
Yeah. And I also get that Cersei fucks up in this conversation because she has a conversation with the High Sparrow about who should run the trial. And Cersei is like, you should do it. And because that's what she wants, because she thinks she's super clever. She's like, you should do it, because I think she's something like, I don't know if Marjorie could get a fair and just trial, if we did it secular.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how she frames it. So I get that this story is building, and a lot of it rests on how much power Cersei gives him, and that is what enables him to pull this whole stunt, because she is giving him all this power to do what she thinks is execute her master plan against Marjorie, and she ends up getting caught in the same web. Like, I get that. I just mean, if somebody is snatching up a whole queen, the only person who has the power to do that is the king. So if the queen is being accused of adultery and she might give birth to a bastard, it's the king who would be like, guards, get her, and put her, not some fucking religious person. And
I mean, under ordinary circumstances, but what with a king that's this young?
That's the other thing, right? A king this young, the most powerful person is Cersei. She's Queen Regent. Like, I don't know. There's just something that I don't want to say unrealistic, because that seems like that's like a nothing, critique of a story like this. But there's something that just bothers me about it. And I think it is, I guess what I'm struggling with is the idea of, and I guess maybe that's really what George is talking about here, is I'm having difficulty reconciling the power shift between the throne of like men, right? And the sort of like high seat of power based on religion.
Right.
And who actually has the power. And I guess the reality is the power sits behind whoever can back it up.
Yes.
Whoever, and Cersei has created a situation where for right now, he's the one who can back it up. And that's just so fucked.
Yeah. And also, like, she is trying to weaponize misogyny against Marjorie, and then winds up like not only doing that to herself, but she buys that favor by having sex with the guy. And it turns into something that feels like non-consensual in the moment. And just the way that she's attempting to like distance herself from womanhood and getting caught in that same fucking trap anyway, because nobody else sees you as anything but a woman, Cersei. It's not working. I know you think, but I think that it's just uncomfortable to know that a woman could have this kind of power theoretically and still get brought low like this. Yeah.
I think too, I was asking earlier about Lancel, right? But the show completely got rid of the Kettle Black situation with Cersei, right?
I think so, yeah.
So, and if I'm not mistaken, there was no High Septon that Cersei had to kill.
I don't remember that part, so I don't think so, but my memory on it isn't awesome.
So I'm thinking they had to have it. There was no other, I guess, big crime that Cersei committed, right? If she didn't kill the Septon and she didn't fuck Kettle Black, the only people she fucked on the show were Jaime and Lancel.
Right.
So I guess if we needed her to have a crime, it would have to be the Lancel thing. So that's why but you wouldn't need that here because she's got these other big crimes she committed.
Yes, indeed.
So there's no need for that. Pisses me off too, though, because there's a Lancel out here walking around being all fucking self-righteous and pious now. But that's a rant for a different day, I guess. All right.
So yeah, she continues to try and fight despite giving in on certain things. And she's like being told, girl, it's not going to go the way you want it to go. She's thinking about what could possibly be happening out in the world, because she assumed as soon as everybody found out she had been got, they would be mobilizing to get her out, that it would just be, of course, we're going to. And my thought on this is she waited until there were no Tyrells around to try to defend Marjorie. And that has worked for the nonce, as they say. But Cersei has no allies that like her.
Yep.
There is nobody who would put themselves out for her in any way because she has been such a fucking maniac.
Yep.
So life comes at you fast, Cersei.
Mm-hmm. She is really this constant, I'm surrounded by fools. I'm surrounded by incompetent people. I'm surrounded by cravens and blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't expect any of them to be helpful in your time of need because you have accurately described who you've surrounded yourself with. Who comes to visit? Qyburn comes to visit her, right?
Yes, yeah, he's the one.
He is like, look, for right now, they let me keep my little job for right now. I'm not on the council anymore. I got kicked off immediately. Yeah, but I am allowed to still like be sort of like deal with the whisperers and the spiders and be like the sort of fake Varys, right? So he still got that job. And the news he brings her, none of it is good.
No, sir. I brought the Blue Bard to the Septon. She's going to be tried by the same court that holds your trial. And he's still singing the same song that we taught him.
He could switch up, though.
Mm-hmm. And then the king has removed Osfrid from the city watch and placed the captain of the Dragon Gate in his place, a certain Humphrey Waters. When his council puts a decree in front of him, he signs his name and stamps it with his seal. And again, a lovely thing of her just like teaching Tommen to be compliant and do what he's told. And then he does once she's not there to steer him anymore. And oh my. And then my council, who would do that? Not you. I've been dismissed. Harris Swift and Grand Maester Pycelle are ruling and dispatched a raven to Casterly Rock to invite your uncle to be the regent. And Mace Tyrell has abandoned his siege at Storm's End and is marching back to the city with his army. And Randall Tarley is apparently on his way down also. Merryweather resigned his seat and fled to Long Table with his wife. And she's like, well, that's fucking good. Okay, what about Orain Waters? As soon as word of your grace's present troubles reached the river, Lord Waters raised sail, unshipped his oars, and took the fleet to sea. Sir Harris fears he means to join Lord Stannis. Pycelle believes he's sailing to the Stepstones to set himself up as a pirate. Woo!
Yeah. This is like rats from a sinking ship.
Swear to God.
She's just like, I fucked up, Qyburn. I'm alone. I am lost. I don't have a hope. And he's like, no, you still have a little bit of hope. Your champion stands ready.
And she's like, dude, I can only be defended by Kingsguard. And he's like, oh, well, now I don't know what to tell you.
She just starts fucking laughing. Yeah, funny, terribly funny, hideously funny. Yeah. And then, yeah.
And this is when she says, get Jaime for me. Tell him, I love you, I love you, I love you. Come at once. I love you thrice? Thrice. She had to reach him. He will come. I know he will. He must. Jaime is my only hope. My queen, have you forgotten? Sir Jaime has no sword hand. If he should champion you and lose, he will not lose. Not Jaime. Not with my life at stake.
That is a fucking, that's a, man, I don't know. I really don't know.
What do you think he'll do?
What do I think Jaime will do? When he gets that letter?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just assumed he would come racing back to King's Landing, but what kind of help he could possibly be, I can't imagine.
I mean, if you think he's coming, like, that's a valid prediction.
Like,
that he'll come back. Like, what does he do when he comes back?
Yeah, what does he do? It's so wild because we don't know.
Is he going to agree to, like, risk it all?
Like, we don't know, right? Do we know? Or you might know because there's still 2 more chapters left. And I don't know how much time passes. So if, say we get a Jaime chapter before this book is over, I don't know if that Jaime chapter will be caught up. Will Jaime have gotten the letter by the time we get his POV? Will he know? Same with the Brienne chapter. Like, you told me there's no more Brienne chapters, but I don't know how much time passes, so maybe he even gets word about her too. I don't know. But say that we get an answer to what will Jaime do in this book. I don't see a world where Jaime does not answer his sister.
Okay.
I just can't imagine him getting a raven, and even like as frustrated as he's been with her and how angry she makes him. I don't know. I don't know what he can do to help her though. I mean, he can't, and he's been practicing fighting with Pain, but I don't think he's been
losing.
He's been losing a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like he's really ready to be fighting somebody for real. He is the what's the face of the whatchamacallit. Y'all know, I'm sorry. That was real bad. My deepest and most sincere apologies.
Oh my God.
That was real bad.
That was so...
He is the captain or whatever the high-ranking person is of the Kingsguard.
Correct.
I can't remember what it all takes to become a member of the Kingsguard, but maybe if he just lets fucking the Franken-Gregor, if he can like anoint him to the Kingsguard, that would be super helpful, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I can't remember how that works. Like when someone joins the Kingsguard, I can't remember the fine details of that and who has to. I think the king maybe has to do it. I don't remember, but maybe Jaime can get to King's Landing and they can get Gregor to become a member of the Kingsguard in time for Gregor to then be the champion. That's the most helpful thing I can think of.
All right. I like it. He's the, what is it? Thing of the whatchamacallit?
He's the thingamajig of the whatchamacallit, or it was the whatchamacallit of the thingamajig.
Yeah, there you go. Wow. That was really beautiful. Oh boy. So yeah, that's the end of the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Man, I can't believe we are almost done with this book. One more to go.
That's it. One more episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And then there'll only be one more book to go. Assuming that we I was thinking that we would cover Dunk and Egg because I think you'll really enjoy those stories. And there's some like fun little Easter eggs in there. But they're much more like little short stories that feel like the kind of stories that Bran would be told by Nan.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? They're not
that makes it sound interesting to me.
Yeah. It's not like it just has a really different tone to me than these books do.
Well, yeah, I'd be into that, especially if I don't have to like if it's like backstory, but not necessarily me trying to grab every thread because I'm not great
definitely
at that kind
not
of stuff, and I know people get frustrated when I don't pick up on all those little things that they like, you know. But I
don't think they do.
I hope not. I feel bad sometimes. I'm just like, oh, there's so much detail, and I feel like I'm just breezing by a lot of it. But I just, you know, I only have so much bandwidth, kids. I'm doing my very best.
All right. Well, real quick before we wrap.
Oh shit, new patrons!
New patrons! We have Whiskey Jack.
Yay!
Jake Chattel.
Hey.
Deb in Ohio.
All right, Deb.
And Katya. Katya.
Yeah. That's
so
4 patrons.
Yeah,
all
new
right.
patrons this time around. It's lovely.
This is what I like.
It has been like 2 weeks since we recorded, but
listen, don't poo poo.
I'm just giving some context.
Nobody asked for context.
There's a Facebook group called Please May I Have a Scrap
Yes,
Context.
I love that tag group. I'm not in it, but I always see it in the comments, and I always appreciate it because it's super effective because someone will always add more context.
It really is. Anyway, so yeah, thank you guys so much for signing up, for joining us on this journey. I hope that all of y'all are enjoying the patrons only stuff that I'm covering right now with Miles is still the Sookie Stackhouse series. And we are getting into a book. I'm going to, because we've reached this point already. So for me, it's fair game. But RoShawn, there's a point in the Sookie book that we just reached, and it's one of my favorite moments in the whole series. There are two warring factions of werewolves, like that are different packs, basically, from different areas. And there are women from one of them that keep getting slaughtered. And this one pack is like, well, clearly this is so-and-so because he is trying to get back at him, blah, blah, blah. And there's all this sort of like, you know, they're being all like low key about going after one another because they have to stay out of sight of the cops. But eventually Sookie just gets fed up and she just picks up the phone and calls the leader of the other pack and just goes, man, what the fuck? Like, for real, why are you even trying to kill me? I am not important. I don't get it. Can you just fucking tell me what your thinking is here? I do not get it. And this dude says, wait, I wasn't trying to kill you. You guys are trying to kill me. And she's like, hold up. And it turns out everybody had it all wrong. And there's a third player that nobody even knew about. And the only reason they find out is because Sookie communicates.
Oh my God.
Picks up a phone and calls and just goes, man, what the fuck? Otherwise, they would never have even spoken to one another about it except to like kill one another. And I love that so much in my heart because the whole miscommunication trope, I mean, it can be very believable. I wouldn't have been mad at it in this story if they did go through with killing one another. I would have believed it.
Right.
But it's so nice for this author to just be like, no. Sookie wants to get some answers. Like, if you're going to kill her, fine. She just wants to know why. And I live for these moments. Sookie is so smart in the books in a way that she isn't in the show. And every time I get to this particular moment, I crack up a little bit because this dude answers the phone and she's like, you're trying to kill me. And he's like, who is this? Anyway, so yeah, spoilers for Sookie, but it is fun, guys. I highly recommend it. It's a really fun, easy, goofy read. And Miles is having such a ball with it. And he just keeps assuming things are happening that really would make sense if they did, but don't. And it's fun. So so anyway, that's what's going on with that. And tonight RoShawn and I are going to be recording an episode on ye old concerts, but especially on Beyonce, because she and I went to see the Queen herself, Mother, live in person last weekend. So
yes, we did.
So yeah, that's the Unsober, which is at the $20 and up tier. It's it's like 2 weeks per month. We do 2 episodes per month, and they're live on camera, and then we release the audio later. So yeah, that's what you can look forward to if you become a patron. Patreon.com/unspoiled. And just thank everybody who has been supporting me, everybody who just signed up. Appreciate all y'all a lot. And hope you have been enjoying the content and coverage. Until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walter Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.